Have you ever asked yourself, why does it seem like those who caused you the deepest pain get to walk away unpunished? Why do the people who betrayed your trust, who wounded your soul, seem to carry on with their lives? Smiling, thriving, as if nothing ever happened. You were kind. You were loyal. You gave them your best. And yet, you're the one left holding the broken pieces, carrying the weight of their choices. But what if I told you none of it went unnoticed? There's something you need to hear today, and I urge you to stay with me, because by the end of this video, your heart may finally find the peace it's been searching for. You see, it's easy to feel invisible when you've been hurt. It's easy to believe that no one sees your tears, your sleepless nights, the ache that lingers in your chest when the world around you moves on. You ask yourself, why me? Why do those who tear others down seem to get ahead, while you're stuck picking up the pieces of a shattered trust? You keep replaying the moment, the look in their eyes when they turned away, the words they said that cut deeper than knives. And the worst part, you never saw it coming. The people you trusted most, the ones who were supposed to protect you, became the source of your deepest wounds. You wonder where justice is in all of this. Where is the fairness? Where is God? But listen closely, God is not blind to your pain. He isn't turning away. In fact, He's already at work in ways you cannot yet see. While you're sitting there wondering why it hurts so much, God is moving behind the scenes, setting divine justice into motion. But and this is crucial, His justice doesn't look like ours. You may want revenge. You may want them to hurt the way you did. That's human. But God doesn't operate out of emotion. He moves in perfect wisdom and divine timing. And when He acts, His justice is far more powerful and more complete than anything you could ever imagine. Right now, it might feel like they've won. Like they escaped. Like your pain was meaningless. But what if I told you your pain is only temporary, while their consequences may echo far beyond what they ever expected? Some people don't realize what they've done until it's far too late. So here's the truth. You don't have to waste your energy seeking revenge. You don't have to lower yourself trying to prove anything. God is already handling it. Every tear you cried, every time you stayed up wondering why, every silent moment of heartbreak, you weren't alone. He saw it all. And He hasn't forgotten. But now comes the real question. What will you do while He works? Will you stay stuck in anger, reliving the pain over and over again? Or will you release it and step forward in faith, knowing that your life was never meant to be lived in the shadow of someone else's wrongdoing, because you were not created to carry this burden forever. You were created for something greater. And this is just the beginning. Stay with me, because in the next part, we'll go deeper into how God not only sees your pain, but how He transforms it into power. Right now, I know what you're feeling, the weight in your chest. That heavy mixture of anger, confusion, and betrayal. It's not just emotion. It's the echo of wounds you never asked for. You lie awake at night, heart racing, mind spinning, playing back everything they did. Every word they said. Every promise they broke. You try to make sense of it. You ask yourself questions that never seem to have answers. Why me? Why did they do it? Why did it have to happen like this? And it hurts even more because you never expected it. These weren't strangers. These were the people you trusted, people you opened your heart to, who you believed would never turn on you. They were supposed to protect you, stand by you, walk with you through life. But instead, they became the very reason you lost your sense of self. For a while, you didn't recognize who you were anymore. Their betrayal didn't just wound you, it shattered parts of your identity. You stopped smiling the same. You second-guessed your worth. You started to believe that maybe you were the problem. And the more you tried to understand what happened, the more bitter it all began to feel. You see others laugh, live freely, and move forward, even the ones who hurt you. And a voice in your head whispers, "Where's the justice?" Why do the people who break others seem to thrive while those who loved honestly are left broken? It's the kind of injustice that makes you question not only people but sometimes even God. But here's the truth most can't see in their pain: God is not absent. He is not silent. He is not ignoring what was done to you. No. He sees every wound. He hears every unspoken cry. And more than that, he is moving. Even now. The problem is, his ways are often invisible to us until the time is right. You may be in a season where everything looks unfair, where their life seems untouched while yours is in pieces, but don't mistake silence for inaction. Because while you sit there wondering if they got away with it, God is already orchestrating justice, real justice not based on revenge or human emotion, but rooted in divine wisdom and purpose. And that's something we often struggle to accept. Because as humans, we want justice now. We want to see them hurt the way we did. We want a moment of reckoning that satisfies they can side. But God doesn't work on our clock. He doesn't deal in petty revenge. He doesn't strike in anger. Instead, he waits for the perfect moment, the divine intersection where consequences, healing, and purpose align. And when God moves, it's not a temporary fix. It's not a flash of karma to make us feel better. It's complete. It's lasting. It's undeniable. But maybe right now, you feel weak. Maybe you feel like they won, like they slipped through the cracks, while you're the one left with the consequences of their choices. But what if I told you? You haven't lost anything. What if the pain you're in right now is just a chapter, not the conclusion? What if your weakness is just the start of God's strength being made perfect in your life? See, your pain may feel permanent, but it isn't. Their actions may have left a scar, but they won't define you. And while they may look free on the outside, what awaits them is something no one can outrun: the consequences of truth catching up. Because here's something people often forget: actions always echo. And one day, they will feel it. Not through punishment you deliver, but through the silence of lost opportunity, through the weight of realization, through watching you rise to a place they can no longer reach. And that is something no one can escape. But until that day comes, the question remains: what will you do now? Will you keep replaying their betrayal, reliving the pain, letting it chain your joy to the past? Or will you choose faith? Will you step out of the storm in your heart, even if just for a moment, and saying, God, I trust you to handle what I can? Because here's what you may not see yet: your life is too valuable to spend one more second wrapped in the shadows of their sin. You were not made to carry their wrongs forever. You were made for healing, for purpose, for rising. And this is just the beginning. Stay with me, because in the next part, we'll begin to understand not only how pain shapes us, but how it secretly transforms us from victims into vessels of strength. There's a part of you right now, whether you say it out loud or not, that is still searching for justice. You're not looking to destroy anyone. You just want balance. You want closure. You want that deep ache inside to finally make sense. Because when someone you trusted breaks you, when someone you loved walks away like you never mattered, it doesn't just bruise your heart, it reshapes your reality. You begin to question your worth. You second-guess your instincts. You walk through life a little more guarded, a little more hesitant to believe, to open up, to love again. And maybe that's where you are right now, standing in the wreckage of what someone else's choices did to your peace, your confidence, your spirit. You're looking around at the pieces and asking, where is God in all this? But here's the truth most people overlook: pain isn't always punishment. Sometimes, pain is preparation. You see, when betrayal hits, something deep within you changes. The version of you that once ignored the warning signs, the one who trusted too quickly, gave too freely, loved too blindly, that version doesn't survive the betrayal. And that's not a bad thing. Because you're not meant to stay the same. You're not meant to remain naive, open to every form of deception that comes dressed as love. Pain has a way of forcing growth. It strips away illusions. It reveals who's real, and who's only there for the parts of you that serve them. It doesn't just hurt, it exposes. But this is where many people get stuck. Instead of letting pain teach them, they let it define them. Instead of allowing God to refine them, they hold on to bitterness like it's armor. They spend years, decades, sometimes entire lifetimes waiting for someone else's downfall, wasting the beautiful life in front of them on a silent war they were never meant to fight. They say things like, "I'll heal when they apologize. I'll move on when I see them suffer. I'll find peace once they understand what they've done." But here's the harsh truth. That day may never come. And if it does, it won't come in the way you expect. Why? Because the greatest trap of those who hurt you is convincing you that you're still their victim. But you're not. You are not who they said you were. You are not what they did to you. You are not the echo of their betrayal. You are the result of your response. And your response is everything. Your pain is not proof that God has abandoned you. It's proof that God is preparing you. Because if life had remained easy, if people had always been kind, you wouldn't have developed the strength you have now. You wouldn't be aware. You wouldn't be wise. You wouldn't be who you are today. God didn't send the pain, but He's using it. And He's doing something in you they can't see. While they move on with the same patterns, the same habits, the same blindness to what they've done, you're evolving. And soon, they'll see it. They'll see the glow in your eyes that no bitterness could dim. The peace in your spirit they never thought you'd find. The purpose in your steps that they can't follow. And they will be forced to watch from a distance because the very bridge they burned is the one they now cannot cross. Still, I know. It's not easy, because no one really understands what you've endured, not fully. People see the surface. They see your smile, your strength. But they don't see the nights you stayed awake replaying the past. They don't hear the quiet sobs. They don't know how many times you had to forgive in silence just to get through the day. But God does. He was there when you swallowed your pain instead of lashing out. He saw when you chose to walk away rather than strike back. He noticed every silent prayer, every moment you resisted the urge to become bitter. And He kept record, not to shame anyone but to bring about justice in the only way true justice can be done, God's way. Because no act of betrayal goes unnoticed. No deception is hidden forever. Every lie, every manipulation, every moment they treated you like you were disposable, it's all been seen. And it's all being dealt with. Because with God, nothing is wasted. Every moment of pain you endured became a seed. And in time, those seeds bear fruit not just in their lives through consequence, but in yours through transformation. While they stay stuck, cycling through the same destructive patterns, you're being pulled out, elevated, strengthened. You're being led into a life they'll never have access to again, not because you're better, but because you chose to heal. And here's the greatest shift. When you stop chasing revenge, you begin to attract peace. When you stop waiting for their suffering, you start stepping into your destiny. The question is no longer will they get what they deserve. The question becomes, will I allow what they did to stop what God wants to do in me? And I hope your answer is no. Because this pain, this betrayal, this valley, it's not the end of your story. It's just the turning point. And in the next part, you'll see how God takes what was meant to break you and uses it to build the strongest version of you that you've ever known. When someone wounds you deeply, the natural instinct is to make them feel what you felt. You want them to know the weight of what they did, to understand the pain they caused, to look you in the eyes and say, "I was wrong." And yet, more often than not, that moment never comes. Instead, you're left with silence, no apology, no remorse, no justice you can see with your eyes. That silence can be maddening. It makes you want to take matters into your own hands, to somehow force justice into motion, to make sure they never forget the damage they did. But what if I told you? That desire is a trap. Revenge is deceptive. It feels like strength, like taking back control. But in truth, it's just another form of bondage. The moment you tie your healing to their punishment, you place your peace in their hands. And they are the last people who deserve to hold it. You sit in the pain, turning it over in your mind, wondering what they're doing now, how they could live so freely after all they did. But here's what you need to realize: while you're stuck in yesterday, they've already moved on. And every second you spend chasing revenge is another second of your life stolen, not by them, but by your own unwillingness to release what they did. Revenge doesn't restore anything. It doesn't bring peace. It doesn't undo the betrayal, erase the words, or heal the wound. In fact, it often deepens it. Because as long as you keep them in your mind, you give them power. You allow their presence to remain, not physically, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And here's the irony: they don't even know. While you're up at night thinking about how to make them feel your pain, they're sleeping peacefully, unaware, unaffected. That's why God says, "Vengeance is mine," not because he's indifferent to what happened to you, but because he knows something we often forget: true justice is beyond our understanding. We think if they feel pain, if they suffer loss, it will somehow balance the scales. But will it? Even if they collapse under the weight of consequence, will that truly undo the damage done to your heart? Will it remove the scar? No, because justice isn't about destruction, it's about restoration. And God's justice isn't driven by rage, it's driven by righteousness. It isn't about punishment alone, it's about setting things right in a way that only he can. That's why letting go isn't weakness. It's not giving up. It's not pretending it didn't hurt or that what they did was okay. Letting go is strength. It's choosing to reclaim your future instead of being held hostage by your past. It's choosing peace over poison. It's refusing to let your identity be defined by someone else's cruelty. It's easy to say, "They don't deserve my forgiveness." And maybe they don't, single quotes T. But neither do they deserve your joy, your attention, your energy, your inner world. And every moment you dwell on their sin, you're offering them access to a part of your soul they no longer have the right to touch. When you let go, truly let go, you begin to rise. You stop waiting for an apology that may never come. You stop needing closure from people who weren't capable of honesty in the first place. You stop chasing accountability from those who built their lives on denial. And in that release, something powerful happens. You begin to heal. Not just superficially, not just pretending. You begin to rebuild your inner world on truth, on purpose, on peace that doesn't depend on other people's behavior. And with every step forward, you regain what they tried to steal: your power. And here's where God steps in, not to simply get even, but to elevate. The God who saw your suffering is the same God who is preparing your restoration. And when he restores, he doesn't do it quietly. He blesses you publicly. He lifts you where they never thought you'd rise. He prepares a table in the presence of your enemies, not to humiliate them, but to remind you that his hand was always on you. Because while they tried to bury you, they didn't realize they were planting a seed. And seeds don't stay buried forever. In time, they will see it: the joy they couldn't steal, the strength they didn't break, the life you built without them. And that is justice. Not their suffering, but your rising. So stop giving them more of your life. Stop building your future on the hope of their regret. That's not your job. Your job is to live fully, boldly. Healed. Because the one who carries your pain has already begun writing the chapter where you win. And this story is far from over. In the next part, We'll go even deeper into what happens when God's justice arrives, and why those who hurt you can never escape the truth they tried so hard to avoid. There's something few people understand until life forces them to. God's justice doesn't operate on our timeline. We look around and think, nothing's happening. The people who lied about us, betrayed us, left us behind, they seem fine. Some even seem to be flourishing. And you wonder, did they really get away with it? But what if I told you, justice was already in motion the moment they hurt you? You see, God doesn't need to make a scene to bring about justice. He doesn't broadcast his timing or reveal his every move. But silently, certainly, he acts. The very second they cross the line, the moment they broke your heart, shattered your trust, or twisted the truth to suit themselves, a spiritual consequence was triggered. Not by your hand, but by a law deeper and more unshakable than any human court, God's law of justice. But here's where so many people lose faith. They confuse God's silence with his absence. Because we can't see the fallout yet, we assume nothing is happening. But that's not how divine justice works. God's justice isn't loud. It doesn't need a stage. It doesn't chase attention. But it is certain, and it is complete. Some people will lose things they never thought they'd lose. Not all at once. Not in ways others can see. But slowly, deeply, relentlessly. They'll find themselves repeating the same cycles, unable to move forward. Their relationships will feel hollow, their peace will become elusive, their success will feel empty. Because when you build a life on deception, on betrayal, on using others, the foundation will always crumble. And while they remain trapped in a loop of self-made destruction, you will rise. They'll be forced to watch. Silently from a distance. As God lifts you. As he blesses you. As he restores every broken part of you in front of those who once tried to tear you down. But here's the most unexpected part. By the time that happens, you won't even care. You won't need their regret. You won't crave their apology. You'll be too focused on living. On growing. On becoming everything God destined you to be. You won't just move on, you'll evolve. And they'll see it. And that, my friend, is a justice they can't escape. Because the worst punishment isn't public disgrace. It's watching someone you took for granted become someone you can never reach again. That's why you don't need to chase revenge. You don't need to shout your side of the story to the world. You don't need to prove how wrong they were. Because God is already handling it. And when his timing unfolds, when the consequences finally arrive, it will be undeniable. Not because you forced it, but because the truth always returns home. Always. Let them think they've moved on. Let them convince themselves they did nothing wrong. Let them post their curated life, wear their smile, spin their narrative. Because truth has a strange way of resurfacing, not when it's convenient, but when it's divine. And when it does, it humbles the proud. It exposes the false. It confronts the deceivers with the one thing they can't manipulate. Consequence. But here's where your path must stay different. You must not wait for their fall to feel free. Because your life is not defined by their judgment. Your joy is not dependent on their regret. And your peace is not tied to their pain. Let them go, not because they're innocent, but because you're ready. Letting go doesn't mean you excuse what they did. It doesn't mean they were right. It means you've decided their actions are no longer the architect of your future, because God didn't create you to stay in the wreckage. He created you to rebuild stronger, wiser, higher. So stop asking, why haven't they suffered yet? And start asking, why am I still waiting to live? Because while they're headed for consequences they can't see, your future is calling. It's full of light. Full of promise. Full of purpose. And the longer you hold on to the need for them to feel your pain, the more time you lose becoming who you were born to be. Let this be the moment you release it all, not for them, but for you, because God is not done with your story. In fact, he's just getting started. There's something you must understand, something that will shift how you carry the pain, the betrayal, the silence. And it is this: what they did to you did not destroy you. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it changed you. It forced you to see the world differently, to rebuild your trust brick by brick. But no matter how broken you felt, how abandoned, how lost, God never left your side. What they meant to crush you. There's something you must understand, something that will shift how you carry the pain, the betrayal, the silence. And it is this: what they did to you did not destroy you. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it changed you. It forced you to see the world differently, to rebuild your trust brick by brick. But no matter how broken you felt, how abandoned, how lost, God never left your side. What they meant to crush you. He doesn't just remove them, he replaces them with better. He doesn't just expose their lies, he exalts your truth. And he does it not in secret, but in public. You may not see the full picture now. You may still feel vague in quiet moments. But hear this truth: one day, the very people who mocked you, doubted you, discarded you will have no choice but to watch you rise. They will remember how you stayed loyal, how you gave when you had little, how you loved when they were unlovable. And it will haunt them not because you demanded vengeance, but because they'll see clearly, too late, what they once had and destroyed. But by then, you'll be too far ahead, to heal, to hate, to fulfill, to care, to anointed, to be touched. That is justice. That is God's answer. That is how heaven handles betrayal. But perhaps the most beautiful part of all is this: when your restoration comes, you won't need their apology anymore. You won't crave closure, because God himself will have become your closure. And his restoration always exceeds the loss. You'll be walking in peace, not because everything was fair, but because everything was redeemed. So what does it all mean? It means you don't have to spend another minute carrying the weight of someone else's sin. You don't have to waste another tear hoping for their regret. You don't have to let anger be your identity, or bitterness be your companion, because justice is already moving. Restoration is already unfolding, and God, the one who saw what they did, heard every silent prayer, counted every sleepless night, he is not finished. He is still writing, still rebuilding, still redeeming your story, line by line, one by one. But now, the choice is yours. You can live as a prisoner to their betrayal, or you can live as a product of God's power. You can cling to pain, or you can step into purpose. You can wait for revenge, or you can walk into restoration. Because God's justice is not just about what they lose, it's about what you gain. He turns graves into gardens, ashes into beauty, tears into triumph. This pain didn't come to end you, it came to reveal you. And now that you know the truth, now that you've seen how God deals with those who hurt you, you no longer have to carry the burden. Release it. Rise and walk boldly into the life they never thought you'd have. Because forgiveness is not weakness, it's freedom. And justice is not revenge, it's redemption. Let the past stay where it belongs. Your future is calling. And God, he's already there waiting to lift you higher than they ever imagined. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord, not to punish, but to protect. Not to destroy, but to deliver. And when he lifts you, he will do it in a way that not only heals you but leaves no doubt that it was always him. If this message spoke to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who's still carrying pain, who's still searching for justice, who needs to know that God sees and God restores. If you've ever felt broken, betrayed, or forgotten, subscribe to this channel and join a community where healing, hope, and truth are spoken boldly. And in the comments below, let me know what part of this message resonated with you the most. How has God carried you through your own season of pain? Your story could be the light someone else is praying for. So don't forget to like, comment, and share, because healing begins not just when we receive truth, but when we pass it on. Thank you for your listening. Goodbye and see you in the next video.